Welcome to day number 16 of the 30-day AI Automation Pro Challenge. Challenge where you can become an AI pro in only 30 days, even if you started as a complete beginner. Yesterday and the day before, we already learned quite a lot about researching in an automated way using n8n. First, we learned how to set up an automated Google search in general, and then yesterday we integrated it into a first workflow that allows us to find people's LinkedIn profile. Today I want to take it even further, and today I want to even integrate into that workflow automated company research. So the workflow will also scrape the website, write a little summary what the company is all about, and then it will also add that to our Google Sheet. And tomorrow we take it even further and I will show you an even bigger automation that I built within a real client project. And then you will see how everything comes together. But I want to teach you all these little methods and tips and tricks step by step so that you then truly understand what we're actually doing. And this is also the way I recommend to in general how to learn AI automation and building workflows with n8n. Always start with something simple that you truly understand, and then you try to integrate it into bigger workflows, build it bigger, more complex, and of course also way more useful. But that's it regarding the introduction. Let's jump to my screen and we will now further develop a workflow that we already built yesterday. So if you have no idea about that and you just stumbled upon the challenge, make sure you also watch yesterday's video, and in general just sign up for free at challenge.germanyAIcreator.com. There you can download all the resources of the entire challenge completely for free. All right, so let's get started. As you can see, I'm here back to my screen in n8n, and this is exactly where we stopped yesterday. The same workflow. This is basically the workflow that just researches any person that we put into our Google Sheet, and then it finds the person's LinkedIn profile. So this already works pretty well. We tested it out yesterday. And now I want to take it even further, and I want to add a column in the Google Sheet that I call company. Here we can add then the person's company. And then I also want to have a column called summary, and here I want a little company summary, what the company is all about. All right, and to do that, the first thing we have to do is adding here a column name, company URL, and of course also here company summary. Okay, so we make this column also a little bit bigger, this one as well, because this will contain a URL. Then we make these headers also fat. And in general, I always like to work with a line break and always the data aligned to the top of the cell. All right, now we have to fill in here some company URLs. All right, you see I entered real company URLs. Here it is important that you always enter the URLs starting with HTTPS, because otherwise we can't scrape them. My good friend Patrick obviously has no company URL online, at least I didn't found one, so I just used my personal website GermanyAIcreator.com. This is my personal website of the AI automation agency, Limitless AI Solutions, and this is the company of my good friend Alex, Elite Body, so basically also my ex-company. All right, so this is all that we have to adjust in the Google Sheet. And now we head over to n8n. And I need my glasses again because my eyes are not the best. And I say it again, if you want that workflow and also the entire workflow of today, just head over to challenge.germanyAIcreator.com. There you can sign up for free and get all the resources and also these workflows, of course. All right, so now we want to further develop that workflow. And the first thing we do now is the following. We disconnect that element here, and then we execute the workflow because we want fresh data. All right, and when we go now to the Google Sheets element, you see that now we also pulled in the company URL. This is exactly what we wanted. And then we go to the split out element, and yesterday you learned why we need that, because we just want certain data within the loop. Now we also add to the loop company URL. You see, this is now inside. Of course, we also need to connect that now to the loop, but then we can just click here on that play button. Then everything will execute until here. And when we look inside now, you see now we have the name, we have the city, and we also have the company URL. I just realized that there is a little error, to be honest. I don't know why this happened, but we don't want these brackets here. So we can just delete that. We don't need it. And we can just run it again. And now when we look inside, everything looks nice and clean. All right. Then the first part of our workflow will stay the same, because here we do our LinkedIn research. We just want the LinkedIn URL of these people. Then we open the loop because now we want to include even more research. Okay, so now we just need to make this a little bit bigger and we execute it until here because we need data here so that we can keep building. Let's check it out. All right, this time it found my LinkedIn URL. Great, even better. But we want to keep building now. So what we want to do now is the following. We want to scrape the website that we filled in to our Google Sheet and then write a company summary. And to do that, we need a HTTP request again. So this element. Get is correct, and here where it says URL, we need now the URL that we want to scrape. So where do we find it? In our loop. You see here it is, company URL. We just pull that in. That's it. We go back to the canvas, and now when we execute that, it will probably run the entire loop again, but that doesn't matter. It scrapes the website. So with a HTTP request, and when we double click on it, you see now that here we have the entire HTML content of that website. Okay, so this is quite a lot. And now we have several opportunities how we could analyze that content. Method one is feeding that entire HTML content to a LLM and just tell the LLM, look at the HTML content and write a summary. In theory that works, but I can tell you that in reality, this HTML content sometimes is huge. It can be the equivalent of, let's say, 50 pages, just way too much. It will just destroy the token window of the LLM and it will just lead to a very bad result. Because of that, we need to extract just a tiny part of the actual HTML content. And this is the part of the HTML content that actually contains valuable information. And for that, we will work with an element that is called extract HTML content. So when you click to that plus and you go here to extract, you see exactly that element. And then we go to extract HTML content. And when you go inside that element, you see that we can extract certain keys, CSS selectors, and then we decide if we want to return it as text or attribute or HTML. Most of the time you will go with text, and if you want to return an array or not. Also here most of the time just check that because you want all the data available. And to make this easier, I already prepared that element and I will just put it in here. I provide it to you as well. And then I explain what we find within that element. But now you know exactly where you find this. So I paste that element in here. This is something I already used in another workflow of mine. We connect it and then I tell you exactly what it does. So when we go inside, you see that I already set up several elements here. We have the first key OG description and then a certain CSS selector. So what is a CSS selector? Maybe you remember it when we built our website using ChatGPT. Also in the entire HTML code, there was a part that is called CSS. And CSS is basically just helping us to design and structure our HTML website. And here within that element, we have the opportunity to only extract certain of these CSS selectors. And I already configured that, and I can tell you I played around quite a lot with that element already, and I can tell you that this delivers pretty good results. And we will see in a second what this actually does. So what we do now is very simple. I will just pin now the entire data so that it goes a little bit faster until here. And then we will just execute that element. And I want to show you the difference here. So when we use the HTTP request, you see we got this entire huge block of unstructured HTML content back, including all these little signs and dashes. It's not really useful. And now with the extract HTML element of n8n and only the few selectors, you see we get back quite organized and structured content, and it's actually the real text that we need to be able to write a little company summary. So this is way more useful, and it is way less content, so the LLM can actually handle it. All right. So in the next step, we need, of course, a LLM. So I just make a copy of that one, duplicate, and we will just add that here. We unpin it because now we have to rewrite that. We can pin the data here, and now we go inside. I make this a little bit bigger, and now I will teach you how you can write such a prompt from scratch. All right, so we just delete this. As always, we will go with a user prompt, a system prompt, and a assistant prompt. And here in the user prompt, we start with the following. We write here, this is the provided HTML content of the target website column, and then we will add here basically just everything. Okay, so all these different keys, this one as well, this one is empty this time, but it could contain data next time, and also the main content. You see down here we have now all the website content available. Great, and that's all. We don't have any other keys. Fantastic. So we close that now, and then we keep going with the system prompt. And as I said, this is for the input. This down here is the general instruction, what the LLM should do. So we make this a little bit bigger, and now we have to rewrite that prompt. And up here, I always begin with the role. You are an expert in writing company summaries based on provided HTML website content. All right, then we come to the task. We can delete all that and rewrite here. Your task is to look at the content provided and write a short but useful company summary, what the company is doing, and if possible, where the company is located. All right, then output structure, that's correct, only output valid JSON, always use the same JSON key. Of course, we change the key, we call it company underscore summary. It is important that if you go with two words that you always connect it with this underscore. All right, that's correct. And then important, never make up information. That's correct. Never guess. Always respect the confidence threshold. We don't need that here. All right, then we make a copy of the JSON and we go back to the assistant prompt. And down here, as you learned it now several times, we just put in the structure again because we always want the same JSON output. We go here with simplify output and always output content as JSON. This is also correct. And for the model, we also go with GPT-4o. This is also correct. All right, so now we can test this out. We just hit play here. You see the entire loop executes again. But as we pinned the data here, this won't execute and it is just a little bit faster. All right, so let's have a look what it did. This looks good. It looks like a nice company summary. And now there's just one step missing. We also have to store that in the Google Sheet. So we just make a copy of that. We paste it in and we connect that. We pin the data and we unpin that and we go inside. And now let's see, we can refresh that here because we want to work in the same Google Sheet. And now the only thing of importance is the company summary. So we delete that and we also delete that. This is still correct because we want to match now the column still with the name, so that when we are here within our Google Sheet, we always use the name to match the actual row. Okay, so this is important. And then here where it says company summary, we just pull in the summary from the LLM. this is done. We go back to the canvas and then we can close our loop. So we do that until here. Then we unpin the data. We actually don't have to do that. It will still work, but I just like to work like that. And then we save it. Okay. Now we can test it out again. And this time we will not only get the LinkedIn profile, but we will also get a summary of each company. So let's go to the Google Sheet. And now we will again lead here the LinkedIn profiles. And this is basically our input now. Okay. And as a result, we get now the LinkedIn URL of the profiles, but we will also get a little company summary of all the companies provided. All right. So let's just fire up the workflow. You see it starts working right away. And now it will execute all that for every single row. Every time it looks for a LinkedIn profile URL, it writes a company summary and then it executes for the next name, and like that it will execute 3 times. You always see that here at that little number. You see we are in execution number 3, and when this is done we can check out the Google Sheet. All right, we are done. Let's head over to the Google Sheet. Interesting, this time it found my personal LinkedIn. Last time it didn't work, if you remember the video from yesterday. And also here are our company summaries, and this worked perfectly because we have here Limitless AI Solutions specializes in designing and implementing custom AI automations for businesses. Then this down here is my good friend Alex's business, Elite Body Personal Training in Munich. It is a personal training and nutrition coaching service based in Munich. They offer personalized fitness coaching to help clients stay fit despite busy schedules, and so on and so on. This is also correct. And down here I used my personal website GermanAICreator.com, and also that is correct. German AI Creator offers video courses designed to help individuals create successful AI influencers, and so on and so on. So you see it also worked great, and now you saw how you can further develop such a simple workflow into something even more useful. And this is exactly how I work, because most of the time, once you understood how to do something like that, you get really creative. Now you can include other Google searches, you can scrape websites with exactly that method. And tomorrow I want to show you an even bigger and more complex workflow that I built for a real client. And then you will see how that can be even more complex and of course also more useful, because there are still some things that also can go wrong and you have to know about these things. And I will show you all that tomorrow. But I want to show you one little trick right away that will just make your life so much easier. You see the HTTP requests. Things here can go wrong, and I recommend you to just go to these elements, double click on them, then you go to settings, and on error you select continue using error output, and you also do that with that one, settings, on error, continue using error output, and then you see you have this little error output here. And especially when you work with lots of data, let's say thousands of different names and companies, you cannot afford that the workflow stops every time there is, for example, a website not available. And because of that, I recommend you to just connect that to the loop and also that to the loop. And then whenever something goes wrong within these elements, it just skips the data, it goes to the next one and it keeps going. And if you don't do that, your workflow will stop every time there's a little error. And as I said, if you work with lots of data, you cannot afford that. You have to keep the thing running. And because of that, just include that. It makes your life so much easier. All right, that's it for today, for day 16 of the 30-day AI Automation Pro Challenge. Tomorrow, I show you an even bigger and more complex scraper like that I built for a real client. So stay tuned and we see us tomorrow. Cheers, Dominic.